And welcome, everybody, to another Nothing Like a Good Book. Thank you for the letters and the emails from people that I've been getting. I really appreciate that. And if you'd like to contact me and you know of somebody that you believe should be highlighted, like I've been doing with specific authors, by all means go to mark@markbishopmedia.com. Now, today, in this particular episode, I'm privileged. I want to have a little game with you. Let me ask you this. If you've been listening to this show, and I mention things like the story of humanity, ecology, and consequence, maybe clarity, the path inside, spokes of the wheel, how about the science of existence or the web of life, the echoes of the mind, the fruits of civilization, and the Pathos of politics. I could go on and on and on. In fact, there's 14, I think nearly 15 books now from my very, very special guest, which I'm still not going to tell you, but the name of the book is Besting Yourself, Gaining Power, the ultimate self-help guide. You know, wisdom naturally springs from the clarity of pure awareness. Now, Ishi says people are hurting. Being young ought to be one of the most joyous times in life. But many young people today are diminished by anguish and depression. This is the reason Ishi wrote this particular book. The lessons of besting yourself, gaining power are the cure. Ishi, it's nice to have you back again.
Thank you very much, Mark. It's always good to be with you.
The conventional approach of clinical psychology is that you can cure bad thoughts with good ones. But Ishi Nobu says that's not so. Why, I ask, and now, why this book?
Gurus have said throughout history that thought serves no purpose. What does thought accomplish? The only reason that thought ever arises from you, from your own will, is when you have a doubt. And so you want to look at whatever's been going on subconsciously. A thought arises and I'm like, oh, is that a good idea? And so you have this doubt and you either confirm it, you want to do something, you have some intention, or you hit a problem when you're doing a task and a thought arises. And then you go, well, gee, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? But there's no real reason for thought. It doesn't accomplish anything. And what's more is thought is part of a complex of cognition that evolves. If we believe that our thoughts have value, if we believe any abstractions aren't true. There's no reality in concepts.
I lost you for just half a second there. You cut out. You were. It's just on the point that you were saying there's no thoughts represent. They represent nothing.
Right. Thoughts are abstractions. They're concepts. Concepts don't exist. Whenever we think, we are thinking about something that doesn't exist.
I love when I interview you, you always flip me on my head, I got to tell you. This book takes me back to my roots as a guru. You state that, having written extensively on science and scientific spiritualism, you wanted to do a self-help book that cuts to the chase. And supposedly this book is straightforward. The problem, the goal, the plan. Okay? Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
Well, so Mark Grady Harp of the Amazon Top 100 Hall of Fame, he says, besting yourself, gaining power, Ishi Nobu sets the process for realizing our greatness with a conclusion to put things into perspective. I mean, so many memorable phrases. This is a very important book that provides enriching opportunities for taking control of our lives. So you can go directly to besting yourself, folks, gaining power. You can visit the author's website. Judge for yourself, ishinobu.com, ISHINOBU, right, .com. And it's available on Kindle and paperback on Amazon. Now, your last book was the epic saga, the story of humanity, ecology, and consequence. In that book, it becomes clear to the reader that civilization has been a continuum. The troubled times today are just a culmination. This new book, Besting Yourself, Gaining Power, presents the personal version of what plagues humanity. So what was the story of humanity, ecology, and consequence? What was that meant to show?
I'm sorry, I missed the last question, but you put that very well. What was your question?
What was the story then of humanity, ecology, in consequence? What was that meant to show compared to what you're doing now?
Well, the story of humanity was a full history of humans from the time they arose around 8 million years ago until their demise by the end of this century. The point of that book, besides the sheer information of it, my history, that perspective I took, is unique compared to other historians. But I wanted to make the point, I'm on social media, I have a lot of followers who are climate activists, as they're called, and people are behind the curve. They fantasize that the world can change. Climate activists think, well, gee, if we just have electric cars and solar panels and all these modest improvements, it will, save the planet. I wanted to inform people that things are much worse and they've gone much further than what most people imagine. That it's too late, and you can't. In humanity, I make it clear there's nothing to be done. So the question arises: well, gee, if I can't help save the planet, what am I supposed to do? And the answer is, well, what you always should have done, and that is enjoy yourself. So besting yourself is about how to make the most of your life, how to have the most fun, because that's really what's important. You've never had control over how long you're going to be here, and it doesn't really matter how long you're going to be here, because when this life ends, you have another life. Reincarnation is a proven fact. Reincarnation is a proven fact. So what is there to do but to enjoy the experience? And so that was the point of humanity. Don't think you can save the planet. Sorry, too late. Civilization has been a continuum.
Well,
this book...
but those that are trying to do that, Ishi, I mean, if every smokestack, could be gotten rid of today, and everything that was ever done that has polluted the planet and all the rest of it was gone, and it was a perfect world of just wind power and solar and green everywhere and no cars emitting any pollution or anything like that. That's all wonderful, and what a lovely planet, green planet. But it doesn't matter, does it? It's too late. Which way is it too late?
The problem, of course, was that technology was always accepted. Horses were the primary means of transport up until the First World War, and then they got replaced by tanks. Well, if we'd stopped at horses, but we didn't, of course, because humans, men, have always sought to convenience themselves, and conveniencing themselves meant more advanced technology. And they didn't care about whether it destroyed nature, because raping nature is what humans have been doing since the advent of agriculture, since they could chop down trees.
Right. Yeah, I want to read an excerpt from the book, and this is from the chapter Being. Living should be fun. Bliss is your birthright. Not tip-top, feeling worried, anxious, or depressed. Why is that? The answer is simple. You're indulging your mind, and your mind is messing with you. Your peril lies within. The dilemma goes deep. You have been indulging your mind your entire life. Okay, share a little on that one for us. Are you there?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Yes, I missed the last sentence.
I was saying that, basically, I wanted to also read, your misery owes to lapping up whatever your mind spills out. You should be using your mind as a tool. Instead, your mind is playing you. You're the tool. Your thoughts on that?
Oh, well, I think that's a good description because, of course, I wrote it. But I describe in the book, Besting Yourself, the process of childhood cognitive development and what I call natter mind or monkey mind, and I think people are familiar with this concept, monkey mind. Natter mind's the same word, synonym. Thoughts come to you spontaneously. You're trying to do something and suddenly you get interrupted by some random thought. Well, that's natter mind, that's monkey mind. And monkey mind is nothing but a disruption. But as that process starts when a child is first born, they are one with the world. They are totally absorbed with the world. And then as we grow up, we learn to pull back from that world. In other words, we're a unity when we begin with the world. We then, as psychological development, we learn to pull back and look at things a little more abstractly. That's the only way we can solve problems when a problem arises. So we learn to manage ourselves in psychospace, and that's healthy. In other words, we go from the concrete to the abstract. That's what I'm talking about in psychospace. But what also happens during childhood development is we have the gradual development of this monkey mind gaining control. And so we fantasize and we daydream. Well, that's monkey mind at work. Or we indulge in our emotions and we indulge in sentimentality, or we think that our anger or hate or any of these negative emotions are justified. That's monkey mind at work. And of course, all of the negativity, that eventually hurts you. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't make you happy. When you're trying to get something done and monkey mind interrupts you with a thought, that makes you less productive. But people learn, because it's part of their living, it comes naturally, they think they accept it.
Right.
And they don't fight it. And the book is about what people accept that they should fight and what they fight that they should accept. So Nattermind is the nemesis. And what the book is about is how to identify what Nattermind does to you and how to eliminate that so that you can make the most of your life.
From the chapter, The Plan, you say strategically you want to take control of your life by wrestling it from your monkey mind. Tactically, the goal is to be fully present in the present moment, never lost in thought. And performing the plan described takes less time and energy than not following the plan. Actuation only takes will, the will to be more alive. So pay attention, the past is gone, the future does not exist, nothing to be done about either past or future. Take care of what is happening now. Blunders come from inattention. This is what you were saying about focus. Your monkey mind will resist your rejection of it in every possible way. And that monkey is a gorilla when it comes to wanting to keep possession of your soul. Now, that's an excerpt from The Plan, right?
Correct. Well, yes. I think that's from The Plan, yes.
Yes, it is indeed. Let's talk about...
Yes, it is.
Okay. Let's talk about some conscious levels. Levels and traits, all right, that you explain. Ignorance, right? That's the level of ignorance. Its traits are limited awareness, focus, concentration, given to stress, frustration, anger, worry, moods, fears, anxiety, and depression. God, it sounds like me. So, do you want to touch on these conscious levels?
Yes, ignorance is basically letting Nattermind run your life. And of course, the root problem of this dynamic is that you believe. You believe whatever Nattermind throws into you. You know, how does stress comes about because you imagine some future that you wouldn't be happy with, and then you believe that future is likely. It's called the imaginability bias. Well, what good does that do you? It doesn't do you any good. Worry doesn't do you any good. And so why do you even bother with it?
Easier said than done, my friend. You are dead right. There's no doubt about it. But by God, it's hard to switch.
Well, it is the supreme challenge. Overcoming Nattermind is the supreme challenge, but in meeting that challenge, you get the greatest reward. Look, and it's a little hard to understand that it's non-obvious. And I'm talking now about science, okay? Each of us has an individual consciousness. Consciousness is the capacity for awareness, our ability to be aware of our environment. Well, of course, there are levels of awareness. If you drink, for example, alcohol, then you become dimmer. You become less aware of or smoke marijuana. You become less aware of your environment. You're less productive. And frankly, you're less happy. The reason that people do that is because Nattermind has driven them to drink, literally.
Yeah,
but you're happy.
You go to drink thinking you can get rid of Nattermind, but instead it probably reinforces it, right?
That's correct. So our individual consciousness is part of a unified field of consciousness. It's not that we have a separate consciousness. It is that our consciousness is a little portion of a unified consciousness, a universal consciousness. So we have a piece of the action, literally, so to speak.
Right. That makes sense.
Okay.
So that explains all the ignorance.
Right. Well, it doesn't explain the ignorance, but what I'm going to is bliss. Okay. If you think about the nature of your life, why do you live? Why do you take another breath? The answer is you want enjoyment. You enjoy the show of living. Okay. Well, that simple way of being is exactly what the unified field of consciousness is doing. Why would existence even occur? Why is there existence? The answer is because it's putting on a show. And what does the unified field of consciousness want to do? It wants to enjoy the show. How does it enjoy the show? It diversifies and puts consciousness in every quantum, in every atom, molecule, being, everything alive, everything not alive, so it can witness the show. And because the unified field enjoys the show, if you manage to overcome your natter mind, your monkey mind, and purify your consciousness, then you get the bliss that comes naturally from the unified field. And you enjoy the show just like the unified field enjoys the show.
So that's where you explain in the collective, actually, in the book. Many in the collective try to scratch the itch their monkey mind makes by self-medicating to dim their awareness. You were referring to that with taking other things. Dimming the light of being is a diminishment in the quality of life. The idea of relaxing by becoming less aware is bowing in subservience to natter mind. It's a nasty thing, this natter mind, the troublemaker, isn't it? Known as monkey mind for proclivity toward chatter, you know. It's an independent agent within that interrupts your concentration and tries to darken your day with negativity in all its wild varieties. And that's another excerpt from the book. Let's move on in the conscious levels from ignorance to enlightenment.
If we manage to subdue natter mind, if we quiet ourselves, and that is the practice. All you need to do, and the reason I say it takes less energy and it takes less time, every time natter mind interrupts you, you've just spent more time on whatever task you're working on. Anytime you daydream or indulge in sentimentality, you're not in the present moment. You're not enjoying what is right in front of you. So all you have to do is, if you have a thought that interrupts you, you discard it and get back to your task. If you start to daydream, which is another thought of imagining, you discard it. You discard the thoughts. You discard the emotions. A feeling is like an intuition. I feel like, and you have that feeling. Well, there's no reason to develop it. If you just have the feeling, you let it go. And you get back to whatever you're doing or just enjoying the show.
You make it sound so easy, Ishi. Truly.
To describe the practice is easy, yes. To actually do it requires resolute will. It is the most difficult thing, and I'm the first to admit that. It took me a long time to become enlightened. But it is as simple as I describe. It's just that you have to have the will to do it, and do it as a matter of practice, as a matter of habit. And eventually it'll succeed. What happens, think about it for a second. You have your will, that is the nature of your consciousness, is to have will to live. Natter mind has its will. It wants to mess with you. So, it's a battle of wills. So far you have let the will of natter mind subdue you. Natter mind is running your life. What you have to do is turn that around. You have to exercise your will and subdue natter mind by your will. And you can do it, obviously, because people have become enlightened. People have become realized. As you can see, as you know, it's a very difficult thing to do, but it is doable. All you have. Go ahead.
No, go on.
I was just going to say, all you have to do is exercise your resolute will. And I wanted to give the full landscape in this as concisely as possible in this besting book, so that you understand what it is you need to do, why it'll work, and what happens when it does work. And what happens when it does work is enlightenment. What happens is you naturally feel bliss, your mind is quiet, you have better concentration, you're happier, you sleep better, you are more aware. The environment that you're around when you listen to things, when you see things, it's a richer experience. And that's what enlightenment is. And then from enlightenment are even higher levels of consciousness.
This comes under what? Coherence?
Coherence consciousness is what it's like a plus thing. It's like you add to enlightenment. Coherence consciousness is the sense that you see the relationship between everything. You start to sense the unity amid the diversity of existence. And there's a beauty to that. You start to see the harmony of everything that exists. And there's a lovely feeling associated with that. The final and highest level of consciousness is called realization or unity consciousness. The reason it's called unity is because your individual consciousness completely harmonizes, it completely unifies with the unified field of consciousness. So you actually, in realization, you experience living as if you are a field, a little field of the unified field of consciousness. And what happens there is, and I'm at realization, pardon me for saying that, but the world is so rich. I see miracles around me every moment. I'm in awe of just ordinary, what you call mundane existence. If I have something that I want to know, then I simply desire to know it. And the answer comes to me. I mean, it's just an amazing, it is a miraculous, wondrous experience to be alive. And you can't beat that. I'm making the most of the show. That's all I'm doing.
Oh, man, you're an exciting writer. You know, you live it, your soul. 15 books and continuing. And I guess you sit there and say, okay, give me another one. Boom, and there it is. So, we're looking at traits of realization, coherence plus, pure, full awareness. It's like being unity, one with nature, fluid psychospace, ready insights to desire, and harmonized with consciousness. It sounds like heaven, bliss, absolute bliss. And that is from the chapter The Plan, is it not?
Yes.
All right. Now, let me ask you, the book is called, by the way, you're listening to Nothing Like a Good Book if you've just tuned in. And my very special guest is Ishi Nobu, an enlightened guru and brilliant author, writer, heavy-duty humanism, science, wonderful stuff. And he's had interviews with me before, so you can go back and have a look on the site there, markbishopmedia.com. How is besting yourself gaining power different from other self-help books?
Other people, unless you're realized, unless you are a guru, you really have no business telling other people how to improve their lives. Todd Rundgren, in one of his songs, Todd Rundgren's an American musician who I happen to like, and he said, if I thought I knew what was good for you, I would have gone and done it for myself.
That makes sense.
So if you haven't achieved realization, if you aren't operating from the top of the mountain, how can you tell somebody how to climb the mountain if you haven't climbed it yourself? And there are gurus who do write books. Eckhart Tolle, for example, is a guru who writes books. Deepak Chopra is a famous not guru who hasn't climbed the mountain entirely. I can tell by reading these people's works. And yet he professes to teach. Well, he's not far off. Dalai Lama, very famous, the head of the Tibetan Buddhism. It's hard to say whether he's realized, but he's promoting religious dogma, and he's a little off.
Interesting. What a great debate it would be to have all you guys in the same room, huh? Wouldn't that be good?
What I wanted to do with besting is boil it down. What I wanted to do with besting is say, okay, here's the landscape, and here's exactly what you need to do and why you need to do it. Other writers, if they haven't been there, they can't describe it.
No, that's
But
clear. Yes, you make that very, very clear.
As far as people like Eckhart Tolle, they're writing more philosophy. I mean, just because you're realized doesn't make you a good guru. What I have tried to do to become a good guru is to study educational psychology. I mean, my science, my scholarship has helped me. I want to be a good teacher. And so I've studied what techniques work to get your points across. How do you teach somebody? There's a lot of pitfalls, and any educator knows this. I mean, I'm speaking now as an educator. So, but of course, the problem with being a guru is you're trying to educate people against what they've learned to do from childhood, against how they've behaved and thought since childhood. It's a most difficult education challenge. And you can see then why being a good guru is a difficult task. And so
Yeah.
I've not only got a different message, but I have done my best to try to be a good educator. And a lot of gurus simply, they don't make that effort.
Well, you know, you've worked hard on this book, Besting Yourself, Gaining Power, for it to be the ultimate self-help guide. Now, let me ask you this. What makes people unhappy?
Monkey mind makes them unhappy. It's a single source. They believe they're monkey mind, and monkey mind's got no good news for you.
Sometimes it must be hard to decipher which is monkey mind and which is another source giving you thoughts. You know,
there are no thoughts. All the thoughts that you can practically say that all the thoughts you ever have are monkey mind. The few thoughts that arise that come from will mind indirectly are, as I said, when you have a doubt. I'm trying to do something and it's not working. So I have a thought come to mind. Well, damn, stop doing that. Let's try something different. Or you have a thought come to mind. Well, instead of A, maybe we should approach it from B. In other words, you have a thought from will mind only when you are trying to accomplish a task and a problem arises. And then you get a conscious reminder, stop doing what you're doing and try something else. Every other thought you've ever had is from monkey mind.
Well, yeah, the natamite, and this was in the book, Living in the Past or Through Ideas, is mental illness. In mental health, you live in now, only referencing memory and counterfactual thought to solve problems or during storytelling entertainment. The elements of mentation come from three integral well springs: core mind, will mind, and natamind. In making sense of sensation, core mind manages raw perception. Then it goes on. Tell us a little bit more about that thinking.
Well, core mind, basically we're talking about processes. I use the word mind, but there is no object of a mind, and there's nothing intent, and that's part of the primal illusion. We tend to think from childhood about objects. Children learn nouns much easier than verbs. But these objects are an illusion. It's part of the primordial illusion that there's a material world, the material world is real. It's not. It doesn't work that way. Everything is process. And so when I speak of core mind, I'm talking about the process of perception. So you have a basic process of, I can touch something and make sense of it. I can see something and make sense of it. Of course, if I don't make sense of something, then it gets ignored. It passes out. Core mind is that basic process of perception. And then the question becomes, well, gee, I'm experiencing or I'm trying to get something done, and then what do I do with it? Well, will mind is the cognitive extension of your consciousness. That is your will to live, will to enjoy, will to do. I mean, the reason that we have satisfaction is because we feel like we have accomplished something. And the only reason that we feel like we've accomplished something is because we had an obstacle to doing it. If everything that we did was effortless, we would have no satisfaction because it's effortless.
Yeah, right.
I mean, if it's easy to do, what the hell? But if we have an obstacle, well, gee, there we've got something done when we overcome that obstacle.
So,
And you take that small, go ahead.
no, go on, finish off.
I'm sorry?
Finish off, please.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. If you take that small idea of satisfaction comes from overcoming obstacles, well, apply that to what would be the greatest challenge and what would be the greatest satisfaction, and you would have the greatest challenge is overcoming monkey mind, the greatest satisfaction is bliss on tap. So you can see how these little things extend all the way through. Okay, so your will mind is how you want to have the most fun, how you want to be the most productive and have the most fun. But then the third aspect, the third dynamic that is working against you having the most fun is monkey mind or natter mind. And right there is your greatest challenge.
All right, I've got a question for you. What is most important to keep in mind and be mentally healthy?
Well, it's funny because you don't want to keep anything in your mind.
Well, that's why I'm asking it, because it seems contradictory,
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of my next book. I talk about the paradox of existence. You don't want to keep anything in mind. What you want to do every moment is be in the moment, because now whatever is right now, that's all that exists. Anything else is a blending of memory and imagination. Well, what's the point? The purpose of memory is so that you can gain skill. Okay, if you didn't know anything, how do you know anything? The only reason you know something is you remember from the past that you did this, and so you want to do similar again. So that's what skill is, and that's the purpose of memory. The purpose of imagination is in order to solve problems. I mean, the nature of a goal is to imagine what is not. And so that's what imagination is for.
Right.
So, but all that ever exists is right now. And you don't keep anything in mind, because anything you have in your mind, any thought or anything that distracts you, is a distraction. You just live entirely in the present moment. And that's all you have to do. That is all you ever have to do. And anything else is a distraction. Now, what's going to happen when you're existing in the present moment is you're going to want to naturally do something. Maybe you want to eat. Maybe you want to eat. Maybe you want to take a walk. I'm standing right here, but I'd like to walk down the street or into the woods so I can see something different.
Right.
Well, that's your will. That's your will at work. So sure, go ahead, do that. You want to feel. I'd like to draw something. This is beautiful, and I'd like to draw this. That's your will mind at work. And so then you become absorbed in your little drawing. Well, that's great. And then you finish your drawing and, that looks pretty good. Or, that doesn't look so good. Well, if it doesn't look so good, that's good. That's good for you because you are criticizing. You are being skeptical. You are going for quality. That's good. It's always good. But keep in mind, in all this process, you're not thinking. You are either doing or you are being. And that's being pure. And that's what you want to do.
Ishi, in your writings, you use the term scientific spiritualism. Explain that to us.
Thank you for that question. The spirituality that I teach, or spiritualism, is based on science. And I think that's an important point. And what science means, the term scientific method is well known. What the scientific method says is, if it's not true, you can falsify it. So scientific spiritualism is what I am teaching with regard to spirituality, what I've been talking about with regard to spirituality. It fits in with a full description that explains all of existence. In other words, I teach a holistic sense of both science and how spirituality, individual mental health. I mean, there are Western terms for this. We talk about spirituality, really the Western term, clinical psychology term is mental health. Except for because clinical psychologists are not gurus, they don't really know what mental health is. I mean, they know it when they see it. They aren't there, maybe. But what they don't know is these different levels of consciousness. They have no concept of that.
Right.
So scientific spiritualism is, let me give you the whole picture. Using science, and the meaning of science is knowledge. The word dates to ancient Greek, and science means knowledge. So that's the perspective that I'm teaching from. I'm not just making this up out of my head. I present to you a unified picture that incorporates biology, psychology, physics, all of these different sciences, so that you can see that the teachings that I have fit into the big picture. And so they can't be denied if you look at it from a scientific perspective. It must be correct. In other words, my scientific spiritualism is correct because it's flawless. There is nothing wrong with it. It all makes sense. Adam Smith, the economist, back in the 17th century, he wrote, I want to say The Wealth of Nations, but I might have the title wrong. He's considered the god of capitalist economists. He said, the explanation that fits the most facts, the theory that fits the most facts is the one which must rule them all. And that's what scientific spiritualism is. And the specific term is energyism that I use, the paradigm. I can, in my books, in all of my books, my spokes books, I explain how existence is constructed. I explain in the spiritual aspects why it's constructed that way. Just as we've been talking about Nattermind. I mean, one of the obvious questions is, why does monkey mind exist? What is the deal with that? And of course, the answer is you need an obstacle in order to feel like you've achieved something. And achievement is part of our biology for experiencing life.
The book itself is called Besting Yourself, Gaining Power. If you go to ishinobu.com, that's one way. It's Kindle, and it's in paperback on Amazon, of course. And in a particular chapter, because I've got to close off soon, but a book has a chapter on reality. So let me ask you this then. Why is the science of reality important to helping people enjoy themselves?
It puts things into perspective. I mean, the 2-year-old question is how. And in the first part of the book with the problem, the plan, and the problem, the goal, the plan. With that, I describe the how. Well, the reality chapter answers the why. It's natural, which is the 5-year-old question. Children, when they're 2 years old, ask how because they want to understand mechanics. But then children, by the time they're 5 years old, start asking, well, gee, how is this? Why is this put together this way? So the reality chapter addresses the why. It gives you the fuller perspective. And it's a very brief synopsis of territory, the scientific spiritualism that I have explored in much more in-depth in my other spokes books.
Dear. All right. Ishi Nobu, what is the takeaway from Besting Yourself, Gaining Power? I mean, what will people appreciate from reading this brand new book from you?
This book answers the question for someone who is, shall we say, spiritual seeker who wants to ask, how can I get the most of my life? Besting Yourself answers that question. It will show you how to have the most fun. Well,
it's first up on my list to read as soon as I complete the book that I'm doing. And I've got to get my head around a few things, but you made a lot of sense. I'll give you that. You're brilliant. You're absolutely brilliant. I'd love to talk to you sometime about past lives and what this is all about and knowledge and trading. And there's so much coming out these days, as you're well aware, of stuff that would never be accepted or talked about before. And, it's where the two are meeting, science and the other. But anyway, look, this book, I think it's going to wake a lot of people up, don't you?
I really don't know. I'm sorry. I don't track who reads my books. I don't track my sales numbers. I just want to help people if I can.
Yeah, and you do. You do. There's no doubt about it. I mean, the book is very straightforward. basically, the problem, the goal, the plan. And the last chapter on reality really explains why the traditional approach taught since antiquity is the only remedy. And there's a lot of stuff I have read. I haven't read the book right through yet, but I've pinched pages here and there, different things, and I'm going to go back now and do it properly. And I'm looking forward to gaining a lot out of it. Ishi, it's been a pleasure. You're a wonderful soul, my friend, and obviously you're going to keep writing. So if I ask you, are there more books in the pipeline, the answer would be yes. But where do you go from here?
Well, my next book is kind of a counterpart to Besting. This next book is called Mechanical of Reality, and it's a lyrical, philosophical tome. For those familiar with the Tao, Tao Te Ching, which founded Taoism,
right.
It's in a similar structure to that. It's verses with commentary on the meaning of the verses, and it goes into much deeper scientific spiritualism from a philosophical viewpoint.
Yeah.
I have previously not written a purely philosophical work, so that addresses that. And then the next book after that is called When Science is Fiction, and it's directly science and addresses where modern science has gone wrong.
24/7, this guy writes. Do you sleep at all? Do you meditate?
Oh, I do meditate, I sleep, I watch movies, I listen to music, but I do spend most of my time working because I enjoy what I do.
There you go. That's it in a nutshell, isn't it? Enjoy what you do. That's very good. Besting yourself, gaining power. Ishi Nobu, a wonderful author. And I'm always grateful to have his time to be able to interview him and speak with him. I mean, I a lot of the stuff's pretty heavy, I know, but you stop and think and breathe and, read about what he writes. I tell you what, there's a lot in there. And this is the new one out. And if you want to know, go to ishinobu.com. You're going to see all the books that he's written, ishinobu.com. And the book itself is Kindle and in paperback on Amazon, okay? And you can contact him. You can follow Nobu on Twitter at ishinobu_actual. All right, Ishi, I wish you all the best with this one. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for giving to the universe as you do and helping people the way you do, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mark. Always a pleasure to spend time with you.